Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game Podcast. This is episode 13 of the Good Game Podcast. I am your host, A1K, and we have a lot to get into on today's episode. But before we get started, go ahead and do me a quick favor. Hit that like button. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you don't miss any videos coming up in the future. So with that being said, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So let's kick it off with a little NFL news. Last Thursday, we had an NFL game between the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. Time ran out on Thursday night. Not only another avoidable Bears defeat, but also head coach Matt Eberflus will be departing from the franchise. Eberflus was fired Friday, hours after he held a news conference on Zoom and said he was confident he would be coaching the Bears against San Francisco 49ers on December 8th. The final straw was a 23-20 loss to the Detroit Lions, punctuated by Eberflus not calling timeout with 32 seconds remaining and the Bears facing a 3rd and 26 at the Lions' 41-yard line. Now, I was able to catch most of this game, particularly the ending of this game, and it was definitely a thought that entered my mind watching this game. Like, look, somebody's gonna get fired. There's just no way that nobody gets fired after this game because you're down by 2 points with over 30 seconds left on the clock and a timeout, and nobody decided to call a timeout. You have a rookie quarterback passing to a rookie wide receiver, and time just expires and you lose. So I think that was a mistake, and I think that the Chicago Bears ownership, they thought it was a mistake too, quite frankly, and we can tell by the firing of the head coach. After being sacked, rookie quarterback Caleb Williams tried to rush his teammates to the line of scrimmage, but the slow developing play, a long pass attempt to Rome Odunze, allowed time to run out before Cario Santos had a shot to tie it with a 58-yard field goal attempt. Now, 58-yard field goal attempt is not a guaranteed 3 points, but I think given the situation in the game, there could have been better decisions being made, especially in play calling, to where they would have been in a better position to at least try to attempt a closer field goal. But the way it ended up playing out was just awful for the Chicago Bears. There's no other way to put it. In the Bears locker room, there seemed to be more resignation than indignation after coming up with another way to lose. There was the tipped 52-yard Hail Mary against the Washington Commanders when cornerback Tyreek Stevenson was taunting fans while receivers were running routes. The blocked field goal attempt against the Green Bay Packers and the furious fourth quarter rally against the Minnesota Vikings, only for Chicago to lose in overtime. Thursday marked the Bears' 6th straight loss and brought Eberflus' record to 14-32, including 5-19 in one-score games. That is the worst record of any coach with at least 21 score games in NFL history. And I don't want to come down too hard on Matt Eberflus because I think he's a nice guy. I think he has a lot of intelligence when it comes to the game of football. But you know, this sport is so much about moments in time to where all we can do is look at your decisions. And if you leave space for people to question your decision making, this is a cutthroat league and you're not going to be able to stick around too long. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. So if you want to be successful in the NFL, you have to develop a proven track record of winning because mediocrity is just not going to be accepted at the highest level of sports. We did enough as players to win this game, Bears wide receiver Keenan Allen said Thursday. If there has been one bright spot, it has been the play of Williams, who threw 3 touchdown passes Thursday to make it 5 over the past 2 weeks. Williams has thrown 232 passes without an interception, the longest streak of a rookie in NFL history. And that just goes to show you Caleb Williams is doing all that he can. He's having a phenomenal season, albeit a rookie season, but he's doing everything you can expect a rookie quarterback to do, especially coming into this Chicago Bears franchise. But he's going to need help from the coaching staff and other decision makers and other higher ups, because he's not going to be able to see the game from all angles like they are. So definitely there's no blame on Caleb Williams. Although he is a quarterback, he's just a rookie. So you're going to have to accept certain mistakes that come with his play. But he's going to develop into most likely a Hall of Fame quarterback during his career. So it just comes down to finding the right coach for this franchise that will fit the schemes and follow what the team is trying to do, and also be in the position to make the right decision when the time calls. Here are some of the key questions facing an organization that had hoped to be challenging for a playoff spot, rather than talking about a coaching search with a 4-8 record. What was Eberflus' fatal flaw? It was a combination of things. Developing Williams into a franchise quarterback was the priority, so hiring and firing Shane Waldron as offensive coordinator in season didn't help. And the fact that previous O coordinator Luke Getsy was fired by the Bears in January and by the Las Vegas Raiders on November 4th did not speak well to Eberflus's ability to pick coaches. In fact, he fired 8 of them during his 2+ seasons. Also, the Bears were terrible in close games, and several coaching decisions stood out. So this is not the first time where head coach Eberflus has shown some questionable decision making, especially in fourth quarter scenarios. So I can definitely see why this would be the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. And honestly, he probably was lucky to make it this far within the franchise. I'm just being honest with you. Like, there's so many things you can point to and say, God dang, maybe this person shouldn't have been coaching in the first place. But, that's not my decision to make. We're just reporting the facts. So, before the Hail Mary that cost the Bears an 8 week, Washington completed a 13-yard pass to get in position for rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, who was dealing with a rib injury, to complete the pass that traveled 52.9 air yards. After that loss, Eberflus said the penultimate play really doesn't matter because, quote, it's always going to come down to defending the last play. Several players disagreed with that statement publicly. And I think that scenario possibly could had the corners pressed up because they just ran 2 out cuts, and the play was called just to get a couple more yards to throw it down the field, Bears safety Kevin Byard III said. Cornerback Jalen Johnson also questioned why the Bears didn't use one of their 3 timeouts to get situated and give themselves a better chance to defend the Hail Mary. And I think that's really what it comes down to. A head coach in the NFL really only has a few things they really have control over. They can't really control how well their players play. They can draw up schemes and defensive substitutions and certain schematics to try to put their players in the best position to win. But they can't always necessarily control what happens on the field. But what you can control is when you call a timeout. That's one thing you can control. So if a franchise is looking at a head coach like, you're having all these unused timeouts in games that we're losing, why are we not using these timeouts to at least try to put ourselves in a better position? And I think the story would be different if you're using the timeout and you're being strategic and you're doing everything you can do as a head coach to put your team in a winning position and you still lose. It's an entirely different story. He probably is still the head coach, but that's just not the case. Blown leads and losing 1-score games defined the Bears in 2023 after they squandered double-digit leads in losses to Denver, Detroit, and Cleveland. Chicago's 3 losses after leading by 10+ points in the fourth quarter were tied for the most such defeats in a season in NFL history. So that just goes to show you the writing was on the wall this entire season. I'm not familiar if anybody is watching the Hard Knocks training camp on HBO covering the Chicago Bears, but it's gonna be interesting seeing how seeing how that show progresses while having to find a new head coach. And hopefully the new head coach that does come in is a better fit. The organization should do some extensive research and take their time with this decision, because you don't want to keep switching coaches in and out, especially when you're trying to develop a young team and a young quarterback. It's just not the best thing to do, but it definitely will come down to who the next coach is, and we're going to be keeping our eyes on the Chicago Bears and to see what they do in the future. But with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic of the day. All right, so we have to talk about this game between the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm sure if you guys have watched any sports news outlet in the past 24 hours, you have seen the play of Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence sliding into the ground for what should be a dead play, but ended up catching a nasty, dirty hit to the face, helmet area from Texas linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair. Now, Azeez has recently came out and apologized for the dirty hit, but it's more than likely that the NFL will try to set a precedent in this matter, and he'll be looking most likely at a 1 to 2 game suspension for this hit. It's just no excuse. This is something that was totally avoidable, and it didn't look right watching it on camera. It just looked like something that was personal. Like, dang, bro, what did the quarterback do to you? He was already sliding and going down. You didn't even have to do nothing but put a hand on him. But all the extra diving, leading with the helmet, leading with the forearm. I mean, it looked like a wrestling move. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It looked like he was coming at him with a clothesline or something. So Texas linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair took to social media Monday morning to apologize to the Jaguars' Trevor Lawrence after his violent blow to the quarterback's face mask caused the quarterback to sustain a concussion. Back in the starting lineup after missing 2 games with a sprained left shoulder, Lawrence scrambled left on a 2nd and 7 play in the second quarter of Houston's 23-20 victory Sunday. He initiated a slide before Al-Shaair raised his forearm and unleashed on the defenseless quarterback. In the post, Al-Shaair, who was ejected for the hit, first said that he didn't see Lawrence sliding until it was too late, and that it happened in the blink of an eye, before saying he was sorry for the hit. Quote, "To Trevor, I genuinely apologize to you for what ended up happening," Al-Shaair wrote. "Before the game we spoke and I told you how great it was to see you back out on the field and wish you well. I would never want to see any player hurt because of a hit I put on them, especially one that was ruled late or unnecessary." Lawrence clenched both fists after the hit, movements consistent with what referred to as the fencing response, which can be common after a traumatic brain injury. He was on the ground for several minutes after teammates came to his defense and mobbed Al-Shaair. Al-Shaair was ejected for an illegal hit on the quarterback, unnecessary to the neck and head area, referee Land Clark said in a poll report Sunday. Jaguars rookie cornerback Jarrian Jones also was ejected for throwing a punch during the melee. As Al-Shaair was leaving the field, fans started screaming at him. Jaguars veteran guard Brandon Sheriff joined in, prompting another altercation with Al-Shaair. Texans teammate Will Anderson Jr. grabbed Al-Shaair and was escorting him off the field when a fan threw a water bottle and hit Anderson in the helmet. The fan was later ejected. Lawrence posted on social media Sunday night saying he's home and feeling better. He says, "Thank you to everyone who reached out, has been praying for me." He posted on X, "I'm home and feeling better. Means a lot. Thank you all." Al-Shaair said in his statement that he understood why Jacksonville's players came to the defense of Lawrence in the brawl following the hit. "I can definitely understand you having his back and defending him in a situation like that," Al-Shaair wrote. Then he complained about reporters and others for their commentary about him in the wake of the hit. To the rest of the people who I've been called every single name in the book, from reporters with their hands ready for a story to find their quote-unquote villain, to racist and Islamophobic fans and people, you don't know heart nor my character, which I don't need to prove to any of you, he wrote. God knows my intentions, and anyone who has ever been a teammate or friend of mine knows my heart. Jaguars coach Doug Peterson says Sunday that it was a play that really has no business being in our league, and Houston coach DeMeco Ryans says that's not what we're coaching. It was a dirty hit, Jaguars right in Evan Ingram, who shoved Al-Shahir after the play, said Sunday. Obviously, those hits are always in question. Trevor was going down, and I saw it out of my peripheral vision. I got a pretty clear view of it, and in that moment, just reacted on instinct. It just didn't feel like a clean hit, so just go stick up for my quarterback. I mean, I saw him sliding, and then I saw the hit, and then just honestly, it just took over. I just knew it was wrong. It was just a dirty play, and you stick up for your guys. End quote. Last week, Al-Shahir was flagged and later fined $11,255 for a late hit out of bounds on Tennessee Titans running back Tony Pollard. He was also fined $11,817 earlier this year after he punched Bears running back Roshan Johnson on the sideline in Week 2. That occurred during a scuffle that started after his hard shot on quarterback Caleb Williams near the sideline wasn't flagged. Al-Shahir, a six-year pro, will certainly receive a fine for a hit on Lawrence and could also be suspended. At the beginning of his statement, Al-Shahir said that he has always played the game hard and that he would never intentionally try to harm anyone. And I think there's a lot of validity to what he's saying. Now, I'm not going to say he intentionally is trying to hurt anybody, but what we do have to recognize, and what I would like Al-Shahir to recognize, is that he is starting to develop a bit of a pattern here. It's not like this is the first incident, and it seems like these instances are continuously getting worse. The first couple of times may have been on accident or whatever, but now we're looking at the third and more times this is happening. And it gets harder and harder to justify the action the more times it occurs. So I just really hope that this is a learning lesson, and moving forward we can use some better techniques in our tackling, and we don't have to see these type of hits anymore, because we don't want to see our quarterbacks in the NFL get hurt and not be able to play next week. So we really have to take that responsibility. I say we, I mean NFL players should take that responsibility into their own hands, because at the end of the day, all these fines and these suspensions are going to end up hurting them. It's not going to end up hurting the person who they hit. And Houston needs to be very careful next time they play Jacksonville, because they're going to be coming after that quarterback, and it may not be pretty. So that's just going to be one more thing they got to worry about moving on in the future. But we definitely want to wish Trevor Lawrence well. Hopefully he recovers and he's back to his form pretty soon. And hopefully the Houston Texans can take this as a learning experience moving forward and try to avoid those type of hits that aren't technically sound. And I think moving forward, everybody will be better for it. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and move into our last topic of the day. All right, so last but not least, we got to talk about James Harden joining Golden State's Stephen Curry as the only NBA players to reach 3,000 career three-pointers. James Harden hit the milestone in the first half of the LA Clippers' 126-122 victory over the Denver Nuggets on Sunday night. He hit 3 threes in the first half and 3 more in the second half, while leading the Clippers with 39 points. Another one of those accomplishments that you never take for granted, Harden said. The amount of work that I put in, countless days and nights where I put the work in, A lot of people don't see it, but the results happen, so I'm just thankful. Harden just missed a triple-double with 9 rebounds and 11 assists. The achievement finished off a standout week for the 35-year-old guard. Harden scored 43 points, his most as a Clipper, in a road win over the Washington Wizards Wednesday. His 100th career game of 40 or more points. He joined Wilt Chamberlain, Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan as the only players to do so. And that is phenomenal company. Whenever you're mentioned with the likes of a Wilt Chamberlain, Kobe Bryant, and a Michael Jordan, that speaks volumes about who you are as a basketball player. He had the first quarter against Washington where he reminded people, hey, I can still go out there and drop 40 on you real quick, Nuggets coach Michael Malone said. The Clippers are 13-9 with superstar Kawhi Leonard, who has yet to play this season while managing ongoing inflammation in his surgically repaired right knee. Harden has been tasked with carrying a greater offensive load in Leonard's absence, as well as Paul George leaving as a free agent in the offseason. He has responded at times, like against the Wizards. His efforts have recalled his prolific scoring years with the Houston Rockets. Malone noted that Harden has matured and responded to what's been asked of him as a point guard. He makes almost every key decision for their offense, the coach said. He can beat you with his playmaking as well, and that shows you the talent. That shows you the quality of his game, where he's not solely the scorer. Harden is also mentoring the team's younger players, a role he describes as very, very comfortable for him. It's easy for me just because I've been in this situation for a lot of my NBA career, just helping guys as much as I can to where it makes the game a lot easier for them, he said. It's really fun. Norman Powell said he and the other Clippers love to play with Harden because they know he'll get them the ball. It's difficult to see from afar, Powell said, but on the floor, knowing when to attack, knowing when to get his shot off, when to get the other guys open, the pass that he makes, he knows how to get guys open and to get the most out of a team. And I think it's been quite a treat to watch the evolution of James Harden. You know, this is a player who traditionally played more of a shooting guard role for most of his career, but was able to transition to more of a point guard role, and has had some success with it. And I think it's been surprising to a lot of people who didn't really believe in the playmaking ability of James Harden. But it's always kind of been there. It's just he's been asked to do certain things at certain times in his career. But if you look at the way this Clippers team is now, they rely so much on James Harden because they have no other player to really depend on. You know, as opposed to when they did have a healthy Kawhi Leonard and a healthy Paul George. There was more people who need the ball in their hand to be effective on the basketball court. Now it's just James Harden. And he's still looking to make other players great and find open players, but he is the primary scorer on that team. So he has the green light every time. If he wants to shoot it, that's totally up to him. He doesn't really have anybody holding him back offensively. And I think it's great that James Harden has reached this milestone. 3,000 career three-pointers is quite an accomplishment. Only him and Steph Curry are in that category. So when we talk about the greatest shooters of all time, absolutely we must talk about Stephen Curry. But at the same time, we have to start throwing James Harden in there because he has shown that he belongs in the conversation as well. So shout out to James Harden. Shout out to Stephen Curry. Shout out to all the shooters in the NBA. It's been a fun NBA season. I've been enjoying watching the NBA games as well as the NBA Cup games. Got a couple games this week I'm looking forward to watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, peace.